Radha Krishna Foundation presents Samarpan, an offering of service.
Navan Bihari Lal ki jai, Sadguru Maharaj ki jai. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Deva Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Ekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. Sri Saraswataye Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Rama. 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 Oh Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Rama. 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 Oh Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Rama. Shri Ram Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Rama. 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 Namaskar. A few episodes ago, if you remember, we discussed what is the easiest way to attain God's grace. This was titled. And in that episode, 2 questions were generated. And so we call that episode part 1. You can go back to the episodes on social media and find them. So today we shall endeavor to answer those 2 questions. But before we do so, let us very quickly recap what that was about. We said, Antakale chamamevam swaran bhaktya kalevadam. We quoted from verse 5 of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, saying that those who upon relinquishing this body, remembering me, Sri Krishna is saying, those who remember me upon giving up this body, at that moment, those devotees will come to me. We also quoted from verse 7 that said, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmarayudhyacha. That Bhagavan says, Anusmar, to remember me. That always remember me and do your duty, he's telling Arjun. And if you do so, definitely, you will attain me. So we can achieve His grace in this life by remembering Him And like in the first verse, attaining his abode also after giving up this body. We also concluded that segment in saying from Ramayana, Man krama bachan chori chaturai, bajat hi kripa karat raghurai. Ramayana tells us that wholehearted, dedicated, selfless devotion with feelings of love ensures God's grace. So the two questions at the end of that episode were that if that's the requirement, meaning remembering God, then how can we remember God constantly in our very busy lives? We don't have time to just sit under a tree and do sadhana all day. But just in case we were able to come up with a strategy to remember God, then can the benefits that are obtained by performing karmic actions which we were accustomed to, meaning our religious activities or dharmic responsibilities, etc., can that strategy produce the same results? Essentially, by performing karma and dharma, do we get the same results through the practice of just remembering God? So, first question, how do we remember God constantly? How do we accomplish that? Here's a strategy. Bhagavan helps us to understand in Bhagavad Gita. Yat karoshi yadasnasi yajoshi dasi yat tapasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam tat kurushva madarpanam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavan tells us in verse 27 of chapter 9 Bhagavad Gita, here's a strategy that we can use. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer as oblation to the sacred fire, whatever you bestow as a gift, and whatever austerities one performs, he's telling Arjuna, the son of Kunti, do them all as an offering to me. So outside of being grateful to God for what you have achieved, which is when typically we chant this Gita slok, this is also a mechanism that is designed to practice remembering God, because everything you do, if you do all those things, whenever you eat, etc., you say prayers, that is remembering God. That is helping you to remember Him. And in remembering Him, you'll reach a goal. Because we have to have a strategy, right? Goals are about the result you want to achieve, but systems are about the processes that lead to those results. Scott Adams. So this is the first strategy, this is the first system we can use. Trying to remember God and saying thank you whenever we're about to embark on any of those things that Gita mentioned. Because we do need a proper system. But more importantly, outside of having a proper system, we have to follow it. How can we go about doing this? A beautiful strategy is given by Jagat Guru Tam, Sri Kripalaji Maharaj, so that everyone can experience God's grace in life and attain Him eventually, fulfilling life's purpose. So this is how we can do it very simply. We set our watch, whether we're at work or at home, wherever we are, and every time at the top of the hour, set our watch to beep. Take 30 seconds of your time. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to do anything. Take 30 seconds and try to remember God's role in your life. Be grateful for the things that He's done for you so far and will be doing for you. Start with 30 seconds, or even start with 5 seconds at a time. Or even, from 5 seconds, go to 10 seconds, then to 15 seconds, then to 1 minute if you can, just at the top of every hour. So here we're talking about a maximum of 1 minute an hour. We can split it up in 60 seconds at a time, or do it in 4 pieces of 15 seconds at a time. The way to keep the mind on God is, think of about your favorite form of God lovingly, and express gratitude in different ways, for your health, for your children, for your job, for all the opportunities you get in life, all the comforts you enjoy in life, etc. Find anything to hold your focus for a few seconds on Bhagavan. And like I said, it can be 60 seconds or it can be 15 seconds at a time. Don't do this when you're driving though. But if we end up doing this for 60 seconds an hour, meaning 1 minute an hour, let's take for example you sleep for 6 hours a day. Obviously you're up for 18 hours. So you'll be doing this for 18 minutes a day, thinking about God. And that's the most you would have focused on God for the last year. Think about it. You'll say, that's not true. I go to satsang every week for 2 hours or more than 2 hours. Here's the question though. Was your mind on God when you were there? Because that's the requirement here. Not where you were, not where you went or you'll be going and what you did. Going to satsang is a very good start. That we should use that time to focus the mind on God. So start there and work your way up to 1% of the day. Start with the 2 hours of satsang a week, lovingly thinking of God. And that will be great progress. Things will start happening for you. How? Because that's more than 1% of the day you're thinking of God lovingly. 18 minutes a day will be more than 1% of your day. Why 1%? Because with this strategy, 1 minute at the top of the hour or 30 seconds every half or even 15 seconds every 15 minutes, consistently practicing that, you'll become like this. Sumiran ki sudhiyo karo, jao gagar paniha. बोलत दौलत सुरती में कही कबीर विचार. Radha is saying that just as the village woman remembers the water pot on her head, in India, the ladies, they still, fetch that water pot on their head, and they do all kinds of things while walking home with it. It's filled. And they speak to each other, they turn their heads, they move their hands, they do all kinds of actions, but they never forget to release the water pot, to take one hand off of the water pot. So they do everything while the mind is firmly fixed on the water pot. So this is what Kabir Das is saying, that when we think of God more and more often, every hour, then every half an hour, then every 15 minutes, eventually this is where we'll get to. But you don't even have to get all the way there to constantly remember God. If we do the 1 minute every hour, what will happen here is that we will be remembering God for more than 1% of the day. This is a very simple strategy. You're now doing 16 or 18 minutes a day, which is more than 1% of the entire day. Here's what that brings. Nisargadatta Maharaj, a saint in India, told an American, Dr. Wayne Dyer, did a meditation and gave it to him and told him to try to spread it in the Western world. And he told him that if 1% of the population would use this meditation and meditate every day just for 20 minutes, there will be most definitely a consciousness shift in the universe. Unfortunately, it didn't get there. 1% of the people did not do the meditation. But the message here is that if we think of God for 1% of our day, you will see miracles happening in your life. Why do I say that? Here's a real life example of the benefits of 1%. A professional cycling team in Great Britain had endured, nearly 100 years of low performance, to the point where it was mediocrity in terms of cycling. Because it was since 1908 that the British riders had won just a single gold medal at the Olympic Games. Also in cycling's biggest race, the Tour de France, It has been 110 years and no British cyclist had ever won. It was so bad that a top bike manufacturer in Europe refused to sell bikes to the team because they were afraid that it would hurt sales if other athletes saw the Brits using their gear. But that changed one day in 2003 when they hired Dave Brailsford as their new performance director. Because Brailsford had a strategy that he referred to as the aggregation of marginal gains. Basically, this is a philosophy of searching for tiny margins of improvements in everything you do. The whole principle was, if you broke down everything you could think of regarding riding a bike and then improve it by 1%, you will see a significant increase when you put them all together. Brailsford started making very small adjustments, like redesigning the seats on the bikes to make them more comfortable for the riders. He asked riders to wear electrically heated overshorts to maintain ideal muscle temperature while riding. They had their outdoor riders switch to indoor racing suits, which proved to be lighter and more aerodynamic. But Brailsford didn't stop there. They tested different types of massage gels to see which one led to the fastest muscle recovery. They actually hired a surgeon to teach each rider the best way to wash their hands to reduce the chances of catching a cold. They even painted the inside of the team truck white, which helped them to spot little bits of dust that would negatively affect the performance of the finely tuned bikes. Hundreds of other small improvements accumulated, and before you know it, the results were showing. More than they could have imagined. Just 5 years after Brailsford took over, the British cycling team dominated the road and track cycling events at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing. They won an astounding 60% of the gold medals available in cycling there. 4 years later, Olympic Games came to London. The British cycling team set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. That same year, a gentleman by the name of Bradley Wiggins became the first British cyclist to win the Tour de France. 110 years, they didn't win that. The next year, his teammate, Chris Froome, won that race. Not only that, he went on to win this race in 2015 and 16 and 17, the Tour de France. British team won 5 Tour de France victories in 6 years. During the 10-year span from 2007 to 2017, British cyclists won 178 world championships and 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals. That record still stands as, it's widely regarded as the most successful run in cycling history. How? 1% change at a time. So for us, in our spiritual life, let's start our mission to get to 1% of our time remembering God. Let's not put our hands, together and beg God for His grace when things get tough. Let's work for it. Because blessings are earned. They're not asked for. It's like making a deposit at a bank. If you want to do a withdrawal, the best way, the only way actually, to make a withdrawal is if you would have made a deposit, right? So whenever you need something, some funds on a rainy day, you confidently go to the bank and make a withdrawal because you know it's there. You put it there. Or would you say that I can just rely on a loan? I don't have to make any deposits. That's not so easy. Why? Because we can't expect to deliberately operate outside of the economic rules of the financial institutions and then go to the bank and ask for a loan when things get tough. They would look at your record and decline you. Same with your spiritual quest. You're not making any deposits. What do you expect to withdraw when you need it? So what we have to do is apply that strategy to earning God's grace when hope is seemingly lost. That is when we can dip into God's mercy. That is when we can make a withdrawal. That is when we can survive off of that withdrawal. Withdrawal in the form of God's mercy. We know that it is there and God will deliver. How do we know that? He says that. Bhagavan says that. He says, try to lovingly remember Him and you shall become a receptacle to His ever-flowing grace. He reminds us in Bhagavad Gita. Ye yatamam prabhatyante tantastaiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvasha. Here Bhagavan is saying in the 11th verse of the 4th chapter that in whatever way people surrender unto me, I reciprocate with them accordingly. Meaning, how much love you show, that is how much will be shown to you. It's very simple. This is very simple and straightforward. So we discussed the strategy. The other question was, can we enjoy the same benefits by this practice? Let us see what Scripture says. Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana. Yat karma virayat tapasa jnana vairagyata yat yogena dana dharmena shreyo viritarairapi sarvavar bhakti yogena marabhaktyo labate yasa swargapavargamadhyama katin charayadi vanchati. Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana. So this is Bhagavad Puran, 11th canto, 20th chapter, 32nd verse. Bhagavan here is saying, and the words are very clear, that everything that can be achieved by fruitive activities, karma bhi, as it stated in the verse, everything that can be achieved by penance, everything that can be achieved by knowledge, by vairagya, by detachment, by yoga, by charity, by religious duties, dharma, and all other means of perfecting life is easily achieved through loving remembrance unto me. That is what the verse is saying. If a devotee, it says further, if a devotee desires Swarga apavarga madhyama, if a devotee desires promotion to the heavenly regions, if a devotee wants liberation, meaning absorption of the soul into Bhagavan, into God's being, or madhyama, if a devotee wants residence in my own abode, Golok Dham, or whatever form of God you worship, Shiva Lok, Saket Lok, Durga Lok, whatever abode of God, whatever form of God you worship, you can easily achieve that by lovingly remembering me. This is Bhagavad Puran saying it. There's absolutely nothing that you cannot attain by this path towards the purification of the heart, which is another whole new dimension, the purification of the heart. While you're doing this, trying to remember God, you're purifying the heart. Ramayana tells us, Nirdamala manajana so mohipava, purifying the heart, because God only wants a pure heart. So simultaneously, while we're trying to remember Him to fulfill this requirement, we're purifying the heart as well. So you're 15 seconds every 50 minutes, you're 1 minute an hour, however you do it, this will work wonders for you in life. You meaning us as devotees. So I want to leave you with a great example of this strategy in the form of a little story. You know, two boys in Dharma, Lavesh and Talesh. You know, they're having a big argument about their religious approaches in life. You know, Talesh is talking down to Lavesh that, you know, every morning I see you doing sadhana and you doing kirtan, etc., arti. For a few minutes every morning, you're doing this, but that doesn't add up to much. Just a few minutes every morning. Where do you find the time like that every day? It's difficult to find time to do these few minutes of sadhana every day, so you should do what I do. You'll get far more blessings than what you're doing. What I do, I'm able to collect 1 million blessings all at the same time. So Lavesh says, really? What is it that you do? Tell me, I'm interested. Talesh says, all right. So every year, I do one big Bhagavad Katha for 7 days. I do dan. I feed the people. I do all kinds of charitable work during that week. I'm also providing Bhagavad Katha. And as a result of that, I accumulate blessings that will last me for the whole year. So much blessings. I don't have to do anything else all year. Obviously, Lavesh fervently disagrees. And he expressed that very forcefully also to Talesh. But in their midst was another friend. Prashant was there with them in their company. And you know, Prashant is a school teacher. So he says to them, hold up, boys. Let's work this out. Let's see who's right. And we'll do this, mathematically. He says, Talesh, you get 1 million blessings for your Mahabhagavat every year, right? Okay. Lavesh, you get 1% a day benefit only, because you only spend 20 or 30 minutes a day, but you're claiming that it will all add up, right? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Prashant says, all right, both of you now sit up straight in front of me with your hands on your ears. You're my students now, you're misbehaving. And pay attention. We will double your 1% a day blessings up to 1 month, and then we'll multiply by 12, to get to a year, and see what you will accumulate in a year, and if it can catch up with this big Bhagavat of blessings that Talesh is getting. And I want to let you know that my conclusion will be final. So let's start the doubling up of the 1 cent a day blessings as being claimed by Talesh. So day 1, you have 1 cent. Day 2, your cent will double to 2 cents. On day 3, doubling 2 cents will be 4 cents. Day 4, doubling will be 8 cents. On day 5, it will be 16 cents. This is not going too well here. 16 cents? Gotta get to 1 million. It's day 5 already. Day 10, $5.12. It's getting a little bit better, but nowhere close. Day 15, $163.84. Nowhere close. Day 20, $5,242.88. That's quite a bit, but it's nowhere close. Day 25, $167,772.16. That's day 25. Oh, only 5 days are left, so doesn't look like this will get to 1 million. This is just too far out. Day 29 of the doubling strategy, $2,684,354.56 using the doubling strategy, day 29. So by now you can guess what day 30 will be, right? $5,368,709.12. That's on day 30. Just by starting with 1 cent and doubling it all the time up to day 30. But you know, Lavesh has to go to 12 months. Can you imagine what that number is? Day 30. It's more than 5 million. My God, Talesh is saying. What will a year be? This is the power of compounding. That is why Einstein says that compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. So Prashant says, based on the calculation, it is much better to do a little bit at a time, but consistently, consistent contemplation on God. It is better to do this because it accumulates to be a whole lot more. And this is my verdict, and it's final, the school teacher Prashant says. The man with the big Bhagavad claim, you know, every year about making 1 million blessings on one thing alone, Talesh, you know what he says? You know, I'm late for the boat. I have to go. So the point here is that we can still do our Bhagavad every year. That's great. But we have to remember the more important strategy, which is consistency. If we do, and if we put it into practice, obviously, we'll be able to purify the mind. We'll be able to remember God all the time. And we'll be able to benefit from all the things we mentioned from Bhagavad Purana and Bhagavad Gita and the other scriptures that God says, if you remember Him, we'll be able to achieve all these things according to the scriptures and the word of Bhagavan. So please make a great effort to do so. It's very simple. As you know, as of this week in the United States, everyone over 16 who wants a vaccine is eligible and can have a vaccine immediately. And so we're happy that in the United States, at least, things are coming together and we can start getting to some sense of normalcy. At the same time, we extend our prayers to other countries, especially in India right now, where the pandemic is at its worst yet. For those of you who will remember, when we started this live satsang last February 2020, we started on the phone conference line in an effort to share some prayers and meditation and keep the little group, particularly my elderly friends at Sri Lakshmi Mandir, together, in prayer at least. And this grew from the conference line to Facebook to YouTube, and we ended up doing over 50 satsangs, live satsangs in 2020. Starting this year, we switched to the Samarpan 30 minutes format, and we have shared about 15 episodes or so with you, all of which are available on your social media platforms. However, as most of you know, that I am not a full-time Purohit Karmi or practicing priest, but this effort on behalf of Radha Krishna Foundation, as you know, that the foundation serves humanity in a variety of different ways. So we were just doing our part during the pandemic to bring a sense of healing, prayers, and comfort to all those who participated. And it is my hope that at least some of you may have benefited in some small way or the other. Now that everyone who wants a vaccine can get a vaccine, mandirs, I did get a few calls, mandirs are starting to reopen again, reopening their doors, for physical satsang. And as such, this will be our last episode of Samarpan on Sunday mornings. However, wishing to continue doing our part to serve, Samarpan will take a less demanding route as we try to publish a short, probably 10 minutes of knowledge nuggets of Hinduism on a weekly basis, posting them up on Friday nights or so that people over the weekend can view them. Short pieces of scriptural verses or so, God willing. And so I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention, that this will be our final Sunday morning episode of this format. And I want to thank everyone who has joined us so far in our live satsang and then joining us in Samarpan. I also want to thank the children who have joined us, Ravi and Chrissy. They've always been here with us. The boys in Guyana, they're all volunteers of the foundation. The other boys, Talesh and Lavesh and Prashant, all the volunteers who, all I do is I sit and record it and then send it over to the children, and the end product that you see is their handiwork. And so I want to thank all of them and to thank all of you. It's been a real pleasure serving you in this capacity, and on behalf of Radha Krishna Foundation, we wish you and your families all the best. Please be safe, and may Bhagwan Sri Radha Krishna continue to shower his blessings upon all of you, not only now but always. But before I go, I want to remind you that we should always keep two things in mind. That in Kali Yuga, the recipe for attaining God's grace and to attaining His abode after we give up this human body is to practice bhakti. Bhakti meaning loving remembrance of God. The only way to maintain and to grow your level of bhakti is to have the foundation of scriptural knowledge. Remember that always. The only way to maintain your bhakti, or better, to grow your bhakti, we must have scriptural knowledge. The tools to help us to accomplish this also are listening and chanting the glories of Bhagwan. This in the form of lectures and meditation. But they should be done with the sole purpose of remembering Him, as you heard in this and previous episodes. Loving remembrance, as I reiterate, is what real meditation is. Remembering God, you'll attain everything in this life and beyond. So set your timers, set your watches, and start participating. Start practicing your 60 seconds per hour. And not only will you see miracles in your life, but your very life will become a miracle for you and for the benefit of others. It's been a pleasure. We're grateful to God and to all of you, and we wish you well. Radhe 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 बरसाने वाली बोरी भारी प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे बरसाने वाली बोरी भारी प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे 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 राधा रानी राधा रानी राधा रानी मेरी 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 ठाकुरानी महारानी 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 राधा रानी मेरी राधा रानी मेरी राधा रानी ओ मेरी राधा रानी मेरी राधा रानी मेरी ठाकुरानी महारानी राधा रानी मेरी ठाकुरानी महारानी राधा रानी ठाकुर हो की ठाकुरानी महारानी ठाकुर हो की ठाकुरानी महारानी मेरी राधा रानी राधा रानी राधा रानी 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 राधे जू मेरी राधे जू राधे 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 मेरी राधे जू 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 बार बार वर मांग हो हर्ष देह श्री रंग और सरोजयन पावनी भक्ति सदा सत्संग बोलो राम 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 राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम उमापति महादेव की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय सियावर रामचंद्र की जय शरणम प्रभु सब संतन की जय जय सीताराम जय श्री राधे वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय।